everyone. Good evening. Another Thursday night, and welcome to Kwentong GK. Tonight, we have a very special guest from the Philippines, the co-founder of Make a Difference Travel, Make a Difference Travel, Mr. Raf Dionisio. Hello, Raf.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hi, Donna. Salamat. Oo, good morning nga. Very sunny dito.
Yeah, nakakainggit. I'm actually very tamang-tama sa topic natin tonight. We're going to talk about travel. Like they said in the announcement, just because we cannot, many people cannot travel still, it doesn't stop us from talking about travel, right?
Yes.
All right. So, first of all, maybe share with us what is Make a Difference Travel and how is it different from, I don't know, other travel agencies or other tours, or how do you differentiate that your company compared to other in the travel business?
Okay. So, hi everyone. My name is Raf. I'm based in the Philippines. I'm currently in Pampanga at the moment. On the
Oh,
way to
wow.
I'm on the way to an AITA community
That's
later today.
Kapampangan.
Wow. Okay. Si Lola from Mexico.
Awesome.
Ano? Saan sa Pampanga?
San Fernando. I was born in San Fernando.
Oh, okay.
So born and raised there.
Ako, sarap ng pagkain.
Did you say you're Kapampangan also or no?
Lola is Kapampangan.
Okay.
Oo, sa Mexico siya.
Okay. Sige. So game.
Yeah. So what we do is we specialize in community-based and community-based tourism, specifically highly cultural, no? And we like to mix it up with a lot of science. So there's a conservation aspect, so that we can come up with um, tourism inspired and really directed by the GK brand. So we're focused on sustainable social tourism. We've worked with the likes of GK Mabuhay a lot actually sa Ate Aisa. And
Is it different from the Mabuhay rest stop? That's different.
Yes. So there's GK Mabuhay, there's Mabuhay Rest Stop, then there's us as the other tourism group. But mostly we specialize in indigenous groups talaga. And what we're trying to do with them is we really try to help them become stewards of the land. So in one program in Zambales, we're reforesting 3,000 hectares, which includes a 100-hectare food forest to the Aitas and a 1-hectare medical forest. And so what makes us a bit different from other travel agencies or tour operators, I believe, is we're very good with connecting science, the community, and the opportunity for business for both city and countryside. And there's a lot that we're doing. Like right now, because travel's down, we're focused on planting a lot of kasui so that we can grow cashew trees in Zambales because it likes the volcanic ash that was left behind by Mount Sugar. So yun. We're just happy to be here. We actually started off in Enchanted Farm. So Tito Tony is the one saying, you guys should work with other other villages outside of the Enchanted Farm.
Yes. Well, why is it important to connect science and business with travel? I mean, some people, most travel agencies or companies that offer tours, right? It's just really about travel, having a good time, or maybe for some balikbayans, they just really want to see the Philippines and the beauty of it. In itself, there's really nothing wrong with that, right? But why?
No.
Yeah. So why did you feel it was important to connect science and business and why do you think people will find it interesting or important?
Well, one thing that's very popular today are the sustainable development goals. We see that the world has to make that transition to a longer term mindset, one that's not just profit based, but also planet based and people based. And so the SDGs have given birth to the People, Planet, Profit, or the 3Ps program, which is now taught across all international schools, a lot of the top schools in the Philippines, and I'm sure around the world teach the same thing. And so when people travel, of course, there's the fun part, right? And we want to make sure that people have as much fun as possible, whether they're surfing, trekking, eating, no? But at the same time, we want to take this opportunity where we have people's attention to really teach them two things. No? One is we want to um, show them a value system which is long term, which connects with sustainability. And many times the communities are the ones that have that. You know? It's often lost in the hustle and bustle of the city, perhaps because of all the marketing and I guess capitalistic values that are very prevalent across society. I'm
Mhm.
not saying it's the only thing, but um, you don't generally get it in the city. And so GK brings out that particular spirit very strongly, of solidarity, working together, and really thinking for the future. And the walang iwanan concept is so applicable to today's COVID perspective. There, you're only as safe as everyone, as your weakest link in your village, because if someone gets sick, the battle will be end. And so that value system is shown very well in community interactions, right? But set against a backdrop of beautiful scenery, exciting activities. Now, the science part is interesting because while they're having fun, we take the opportunity also to plant seed ideas in the minds of people, no? Seeds that hopefully will grow, such as, hey, if you're going through a farm or a forest area, guess what? There are billion-dollar industries just right beside you, right below you, right above you. The beauty of the Philippines is in its natural resources, but to tap those natural resources and to process them into something of value, we need to understand science a lot. And I think that's one of the things that perhaps is missing, or an opportunity for improvement within our educational system. And it's something that I'm eternally grateful to GK for, because obviously when I was working at Enchanted Farm in 2013 and 2014, that's the perspective that I picked up from Tony. I see Dylan and Anna and Camille have done spectacularly, harnessing the resources of the country to create something of value to everybody. And I think travel is the best way to do it, especially now. People like mixing business and pleasure. Diba?
Yeah. Well,
So
you mentioned COVID, right? And obviously, travel is one of the industries hit hard by the pandemic because people cannot
also,
go out of their homes safely. So how do you manage that? What what do you do to? Is there some kind of how did you maybe pivot to manage that? The challenge of of not really having any business of travel at this time.
well, it's definitely very difficult. So I actually have two businesses related to travel. One is Make a Difference Travel, which is an operator agency. The other is the Circle Hostel, which
Yeah.
is a surf hostel in Zambales, La Union, and Aurora provinces. And I remember exactly last year, when all the tourism came to a screeching stop.
Mhm.
First thing we thought of was, how do we pay our employees, right? And the next one is, how do we keep the community partners alive? I mean,
Mhm.
we can't support every community partner, but perhaps the ones within Luzon, maybe we can reach out. So, um, the first thing we did with MAD was we started a crowdfunding campaign to plant trees.
Mhm.
Normally, the tree planting is included in our tour programs, so you get to
Mhm.
plant as much as you like when you're there. But because people were not going to be able to travel, we said, well, rather than someone donate to the ITAS and say, oh, kawawa naman kayo, here's some money, feed yourself. We wanted to change the dynamic and say, hey, we want to help you, so we'll pay you to plant trees. So at least you're productive within this unproductive period of time, right?
Yeah.
And in the end, they were able to plant about 10, 11,000 trees. Half of them are cashew trees. And so we're basically building a cashew plantation, following permaculture principles in Zambales. So
And
that's
is that
one.
able to provide livelihood? Like, are you able to sell cashews? And
Now we're selling cashews already. It's exciting because they already have some existing cashew trees, but it's not too much. So we said, let's just push it so they can really become a provincial or possibly national supply. Especially because in Antipolo, most of the cashew is imported from Vietnam. So sayang
oh, true.
naman.
Oo nga, yeah.
It's crazy. The governor of Rizal, who we're trying to work, we're working with also on reforestation in Rizal, was
Yeah.
very sad to find out that it's imported. Right? And so again, it goes back to that mindset that if you want to, you know, why do we need to teach science when we travel? Because the business opportunity is there. Plant a cashew, will explain how it works. That's the science. And then when you go back, you're like, hey, the business idea.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's how we build make this economy, pandemic proof. In that sense, right?
Right. Right.
Um, yun. The second thing we did was we split the MAD team into two groups.
Mhm.
So one group focused on coming up with online education programs, which we've spun off into Make a Difference courses, the MAD
Mhm.
courses. So Mad Travel actually had a lot of school groups that would come, and they were always going with us precisely because we could mix values and the science, which is basically a social entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
parang, backbone. So we reached out to the schools and we've started doing digital programs with them. So I still go to the community, but it's just me. And then
Yeah.
we Zoom with some of the village elders, or we teach them dancing, but it's online.
Right. So you teach social entrepreneurship. What courses exactly do you teach?
So we teach social entrepreneurship. There's also a lot of community development. There's a lot of design thinking also,
Yeah.
and also a lot of like um, problem solving and investigation. So the stories of the community are very interesting, and so for example, there's one village that has 3,000 hectares but no forest, and so there's
Yeah.
no water. We show that case study to the students, a real life case study, and then the students, a Harvard style, get to discuss, come up with ideas, and then afterwards they can talk to the community after, right? And I think that's the one of the interesting um, perspectives there. And we've got another village where they have so many resources already. They've got a lot of fruit, a lot of vegetables, but they don't have a market. They don't have a processing facility. So what should the students do? Right? So it's applicable to business students, science students. Yeah. So our online courses are doing pretty well, and hopefully they'll connect back to travel when things get better. Right? And then the last pivot we did, so the other half of the Mad Travel team, also worked on promoting the products of the communities. So honey, coffee, cashew, right, and then sweet potato, mango. So whatever we could get our hands on in the villages, we'd see if there was a market, and then we created an online marketplace for them. Yeah, here in Manila. I guess it's just the reality. So that one became a Make a Difference market, right? And yeah, so those are some of the pivots that the adjustments we made along the way.
Those
Definitely
are
not the same as before.
the same, not the same what? I'm sorry.
It's not the same like when we were travel business, but it was the
Yeah.
start.
Yeah. I mean, those are great ideas, because I mean, Mad Travel in itself is a social enterprise, right? It's something that you know it's you are already doing social entrepreneurship, and to share that sort of expertise and your experience is it's a great idea to sort of spun off that mad courses and mad market which would be, I guess, the application of what you know what they learn also. So it's all may not be travel, but I see the the relation. It's really beneficial to a lot of people also. Maybe trying to maybe trying to also get some ideas on how to find livelihood, especially in this very difficult times when when mobility is really limited, right? Um,
Mm,
well, let me backtrack for a little bit here. So you're you grew up in like around Loyola Heights. I'm not gonna say exactly where
yes,
you have your
that's the city.
I saw your address in your resume. And like I actually you also lived in Loyola Heights. I went to Miriam, right? College.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
see? Dalawa na yung ano natin, same. Kulang na lang kung wala akong asawa, match in heaven na tayong dalawa. And of I'm like 20 years. You can be my son already, I think. So, but so you grew up in that, it's a great
Very comfortable environment.
very
Yeah.
comfortable, right? And I shared this also in previous episodes of Kwentong GK, how before I guess eventful or quite impactful experience that I had in college. Like the poverty was part of the landscape. Really, you go out, diba? There are people living in shanties and everything, but you just kind of grew up with with poverty all around you, and until you actually learn about the life of people and their challenges, the challenges of the poor, and how their life is very much different from what we grew up with. You don't really know, right? So you don't
Mm.
really understand how that is happening, and how you're really how you can you know maybe change things, or maybe part of the change that you want to see, right? But how was your journey? Is that you know this is some similarities in what I shared, or
Oh yes, yes.
how
Very.
was that for you?
Had I not encountered GK, I probably wouldn't. I definitely would not be thinking this way. And I think, in particular, a lot of credit goes to the Enchanted Farm team. Back then, when I joined, um, I mean, definitely was living a sheltered life. Uh,
Yeah,
and also one where I was very disconnected from the reality of most Filipinos. Because you grow up in a family that speaks English fluently,
hmm,
have access to all this information, travel, and all. At some point, you start to expect that the Philippines has to be more like what you see on TV. Like, oh, it should be more like America, but American TV is what we get, right? Or it should be more like Europe. You see that sometimes. But man, when you go into the countryside,
yeah,
it's so different. Like the soap operas, the telenovelas we have are just the tip of the iceberg, literally.
yes.
Oh, beyond. So I'm very grateful to the people there.
So how did you come to know about GK, about Gawad Kanina?
Well, GK as an NG, parang matagal ko na siyang kilala kasi it's required in school. Like
Right.
first year college, we did a GK build. But I guess we didn't really get a good explanation of the why, or maybe I was sleepy because it was so early.
Yeah.
But when GK started, Fun Offense started the social enterprise movement, my best friend told me, "Hey, bro, you should go to CSI nights in Ateneo because we're talking about business that helps people the heart. Like it's up your alley." So I went over and I was blown away. I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's such an innovative concept." It made
Yeah.
me question very, very strongly my desire to just be rich. Period. Because that's the dream walked when I walked out of Ateneo. That was the mindset I had. You
Yeah.
know, unfortunately, that's what I picked up. So it was nice that there was a different perspective, and parang I've tried to incorporate that into all the business that I do ever since. Of course, it's been a long journey. You have to relearn along the way. Parang siguro ano, best part of the interesting part of the learning is when you're with the community members and you learn from them. It's, I hope it's something that I feel like people can really benefit from. So they're not just
Mhm.
beneficiaries. I'm also a beneficiary in that way.
Yes. Yes. But is it difficult though? For me personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to be wealthy. There's so many
Mm,
things that, that can be done when, when you're wealthy, when you have, the financial resources.
correct. Correct.
Hard work, a lot of our, GK villages were built because,
From
because
very wealthy families.
resources from people who actually have the money to, to donate, right? But how is it, i- is it more difficult, or how is it, I guess, what are the challenges of wanting to be a social entrepreneur versus, like, you know your
Haber.
I guess your regular, I don't know what you call, like, an entrepreneur who wants to make money.
Well, I still want to make money and
Right.
I still want to be rich, but now I'm determined to make sure that the land I interact with, the people I interact with, also gain wealth from my process. So I don't think the goal has changed. It's just who I want to bring along that goal is bigger, right?
Right.
That perspective of that thing. And ano kasi parang we're just safer that way.
Yeah.
Everything
Yeah.
makes more sense. Um, and I guess in terms of difficulty though, I remember when I was just starting the journey, I actually messaged Dylan's wife, Anna.
Yeah.
Like, Anna, if I can ask for advice naman, interview kita about like your journey. So we sat down in human nature and yeah, I just asked her, like, so what's it like? Is it easier? Is it harder? And back then, she said that she believed that it's definitely harder than a normal business
Yeah.
because you have more stakeholders and parang the resource management changes, the paradigm changes. So it's the Dylan's mandate, like it's the less for self, more for others
Mhm.
perspective. And um, also there's that angle of like really trying to do things the right way. So um, fast forward to 7 years later, I'm like, she's absolutely right. It is in many ways harder. Um, but perhaps because the school system that most of us go through or have gone through didn't prepare us for that particular perspective, right?
Mhm.
There's a whole new world of information that you need to be able to run it on. So there's a high learning curve. But I'm hopeful though that today, because it's interesting, some of the students we have for social entrepreneurship are as young as 8 years old. It's so cute.
Wow.
Cute, no? Like 2 weeks
Well,
ago
what
we
do you
had
teach them though at 8 years old?
I don't know, investigations or like, oh, please identify the problem of the village. And then they talk to
Ah.
the village elder, and then there's some pre-recorded content about the environment, the key questions and environment, which is our job, livelihood. And then the kids have to think about what are we going to do to help them or
Yeah.
what is the real problem. So at an early age, it's very cute how things happen. And the kids are so inquisitive. And so I'm very hopeful that we might have a future where more people are oriented towards creating wealth, not just for their direct family, but also keeping that environmental side, keeping, making sure that people on the countryside also get something.
All right. Well, I want to ask you about who your typical customers are. I guess pre-pandemic, obviously, because you probably haven't done tours in the, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
a little over a year. But before I get to that, I just want to read a greeting from Everett Ika. Raf is amazing. Personally, thank you for continuously supporting CFOU lead. And
Yeah.
you
Hello.
remember, so I guess you guys have met. Everett is from Chicago. Is based here in Chicago.
I, I, I ULEAD is a program of the Commission of Filipinos Overseas. So we've handled a couple of their groups. They're
Ah,
amazing Filipinos coming back.
awesome. All right. Also, Tito Jun Rafinian, who's a GKUSA's chairman, said he's watching. Hi, Tito Jun. All right. So who are your typical, I guess, customers, or who's your typical market? Is it Filipinos like in the Philippines, or do you get a lot of tourists like foreigners or balikbayan?
Uh, so we had a lot of the, well, we had on a headcount basis, we had more Filipinos in the travel side, but was that the trips were longer for all the foreign. So in the end, what we wanted to do was to connect with Filipinos so that they could help us do most of the social impact side of the tour programs. Because the Filipinos would really come over and do the social impact stuff like planting trees, community outreach. The foreign crowd was more of a balanced market. Like they'd also travel around, so there was a bit more profit for us. But our favorite talaga, and until now, they're still our customers, are schools,
Mhm.
especially the international schools, the universities from, kasi they're studying business, they're studying entrepreneurship, they're studying development, sustainability. These are topics that our team can really like give life to. We had
Mhm.
a program on how Manila drinks water. Where does it come from? Challenges, and then there's another one, how Manila eats. So
Yeah.
about the food supply chain, food security. So yeah, mostly that schools talaga.
So I don't know if you know, but here in the US, we're celebrating Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. And
Yeah.
I'm sure you're aware of what's going on here in the US, how, how there's a, I guess, movement, or, or I guess an initiative amongst people to, to stop Asian hate. That's been attacks, right? Against Asians and everything. And this is, here's my take on it, or I guess one thought, many thoughts, right? But one thought is that I feel like about being Asian and about Filipino, right? I feel that a lot of us, especially who are, a lot of the people who are, born and raised here in the US, may not know as much about their own heritage and about their own culture. And and so because they don't know, then a lot of people also don't know about who we are, right? As as Filipinos, right? Or as Asians, right? And so how do you think, like, make how do you think, like, an organization or a business such as Mad Travel can help with that, in terms of, like, when Filipinos visit the Philippines, especially those who probably have very little, no to very little idea of their own heritage and everything. Is that something that you think, Mad Travel can, help in terms of just having, for us having a better appreciation of our own heritage? Or maybe in the Mad courses, or are you just limited to social entrepreneurship?
No, definitely. Right? The because the programs we have can vary from like 10% social orientation and 90% fun to the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Like it's 10% fun and 90% social programs, right? So culture definitely comes out in the programs, especially the more you connect with different communities. The I think it's important for those watching. I guess I just want to share my own context, my own
Yeah.
perspective on. I agree with your statement that many people don't understand what or who a Filipino. Perhaps part of that is because, and I just look at the generation of my parents. Travel across the country was not very accessible,
Mhm.
so you it's hard to know something you haven't visited, right?
Yeah.
Of course, there's a lot of discrimination or there's a lot of bias, Mindanao to Luzon,
Yeah.
Visayas, vice versa. Right? There's a dynamic there. And lastly, the school system doesn't teach you that either. So there's no way for you to really understand. And so if the parents and grandparents generation are already lacking in certain information and context, then especially the kids and grandkids, right? And so definitely for people who are watching, I think that travel can really and that course can really offer you more perspective because we'll really dive deep into the personalities of different communities, right? Or personalities in different provinces. And they'll tell you the stories of the ground on the ground up, the stories you won't find on the internet. Because if you're looking for like the best hotel or let's say the best restaurant, that's easy to search because those
Yeah.
people will probably pop up. But if you want to know um, uh, there's a dish that I really love in Rizal. It's cooked by the Dumagat. It's called sinagumpit. Right? Have you ever tried it?
Sinagumpit?
So it's in bamboo, and then they get pile, and then the leaves of a tree pilukaw, and then they add salt and pepper, and then they just cook it. Right? It's like pressurized cooking in bamboo. And when it comes out, grabe ang sarap. Nakaka-addict. Right? It's like a spicy, sour, salty, like uh, dip, like it's made of forest leaves also. So there are these treasures that we have. And, a lot of the local chefs now, like I have a couple of friends who are taking up. They rather than just focus on let's say foreign food, they're very interested to use their culinary skills to bring out like what is the best of Filipino indigenous food. Right? And in Mindanao, I see Kuya Dan is watching.
Yeah.
My good
He says hi.
Kuya Dan I'm super grateful to him because he's the one who brought me to Tawi Tawi. And
Mhm.
man, the food spread there nung fiesta, like unimaginable. Like I would never have expected that kind of variety of like there's rice, turmeric rice cooked inside was that sea urchin. Ang galing. No? So culturally, like the food palang, it's so different when you go to different villages. Lutong bahay is greatly, it's very underrated. I would say.
So did you go to the trips? Did you go to, with your guests, I guess, to the tours and all of that?
Of course.
You did. Can you share like, maybe one unforgettable experience, or maybe feedback you heard from one of your guests that you toured around?
Maybe it's a no. Oh man, there are a lot. But
Yeah.
I guess one thing that I from a guest's perspective, um, there was a group that we had toured, and it was a birthday trip for this girl named Lisa Bart. I actually wasn't the one touring; it was my co-tour guide, and one of her and she and some of her friends were so happy on the trip, and they learned so much on the trip that um, a year later they started a fundraising program for their forest program to help with the reforestation, and then it spiraled and they've started their own NGO called For the Future, and now they're working with Nadine Lustre to raise money to plant trees with for the island, and it's great because Nadine Lustre is such uh, a huge personality in the
Oh
Philippines.
yeah.
And parang it bodes well that we have famous people really speaking up and putting their reputation on the line to help out communities, right? It's that next generation, and I'm hoping we can become very viral because of social media, and more will follow. And if it's not, and parang at that perspective that they're taking now to we have to take care of our country, have our country. That's I love that aspect. So I think that more than parang it wasn't what she said, it's what they did after the program that really made me
Yeah.
think we're on to something. Um, just in the same way that what GK's done for me has really shifted the way I look at my own life. I'm happy that we're able to provide new paths for people.
That's a really good segue to my next question. How do you want to engage people with what you do with with the math courses and everything that you do? How do you want to engage people in a part of it?
Well, I guess just to be very specific, if you guys know any schools that are interested to learn more about social entrepreneurship or sustainability, that we'd love to connect with them and see what we can do. Even starting with, let's say, a free talk or something like that. It, there's not much travel now, so all I can really ask is for you guys to subscribe to madtravel.com for videos like that. But I guess from a more daily perspective, what I learned from doing make a difference market, so selling fruits, vegetables, and other kinds of produce, is that there. Let me just use rice as an example because we import so much rice from the country from other countries. Right? Last July, we embarked on a journey to work with about 20 plus 25 farmers to plant and harvest rice. And what was so nice is that the rice quality was so good, and it's just that they didn't know how to market it properly. So when we were selling the rice, we were very happy because people who were buying imported rice were buying the rice we had harvested in Zambales. And if I look at the economic perspective of that, it's like, hey, instead of the money going out, it just stays here. And
Yeah.
especially now in the time when tourism is unable to bring money into the country, that's so important. Right? So that it goes around, right? So I'm hoping people can support products within their locality, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you vote with your peso or dollar every day. And of course, we've got some products hoping you guys can consider, like the honey or even just the tree planting service is available on your site at madmarket.ca. But um, more than anything, it's really like looking at how your power affects other people.
So you said you mentioned earlier you're working with the Dumagats and the Aitas, right? So by that particular community, incidentally, by the way, remember that unforgettable, I guess, impactful experience that I mentioned? It was actually with the community of Dumagats in Tanay.
Ah, talaga?
It
What
was
happened?
sociology. It was sociology 101. We were required. I was a freshman in Miriam.
Mm,
We were required to go on a trip, right? And there was was it exposure they call it, right? It's a
yes, yes.
weekend at a Dumagat community in Tanay Rizal, and that was really the first time I was face to face with poverty, knowing that they did not have any basic services like water or electricity, and they get cheated when they bring their produce to town, like to the ano ba yun, parang market, right? They
Ayan, oo.
count, etc. And then and people would take advantage of them being illiterate,
Mm,
yeah, yeah, having not understanding how to count money, etc. So that was really the first,
mm,
and so my first advocacy was with indigenous people. So I'm very curious to know. Yeah, that was my first advocacy, and then kind of just then I was curious to know. Okay, how's poverty among fisher folks, or how's poverty among the in the red light district of Ermita? Why are people resorting into prostitution, kind of thing? So I just my curiosity. I was young. I was 18, 19. But so then I'm curious to know why the I guess indigenous peoples communities, why with the Aitas and the Dumagats, what brought you there?
well, me, one thing is, I'm very fascinated. I guess it's my own hunger for understanding um, my own culture or my own history, right? And then it's also that love for the environment and culture. And so it just so happens that all of those boxes are ticked when you work with these people, right? So like there's a lot of forests or rivers or ocean, and
Yeah.
the denture, but also the I guess that desire to understand what the mindset was like of people in the Philippines prior to the colonial um, coming. And it's amazing. Like,
Right.
I've been very privileged to be able to work with and also meet, let's say, the Yakan, Zamboanga, or sa the Kalinga up in the Kalinga mountain, beyond
Yeah.
Kalinga province, right? Ang galing ng mindset nila. Like, the cultures are so distinct
Yeah.
and also so rich that parang, there's a lot for us to study. It's just not documented. So
Right.
I'm hoping at some point we can have some sort of like green school that is equally cultural, equally green, and equally I don't know, like social enterprise sustainability minded. Kasi it's so much fun, honestly, to see that, because now I have such a wide perspective of what what Filipinos could be, and also what strings us all together in a common
Right.
language.
Right. No, I love it. It's this is you're the perfect guest to kick off Asian Pacific American Heritage Month here in the U.S. And we celebrated the entire month of May every year. So I really think that, like I said earlier, we have to have a better understanding of who we are as a people, and what better way to understand who we are than to go back to our kumbaga, ancestors na natin, right? Like the very, like you said, the people who, the very first Filipinos, right? Before the colonization of, foreigners coming into the land and everything and changing things. And, so you,
Yeah.
you see, you see the culture, I guess, in its purest form when you visit communities and the villages, up in the mountains, or even in Pampanga, which is, not really,
Oh,
diba?
oh, it's so interesting in Pampanga. I found out that are you familiar with the Kapampangan script, yung kulitan? It's the version of what you call that. Basta that it's an interesting writing language. And I
Yeah.
was like, wow, it's so it looks like Chinese.
Oh, speaking of, I was looking at your resume and it says minor in Chinese. So, why do you have a minor in Chinese? Are you partly Chinese, or is that a lot of
Well,
Chinese people own businesses in the Philippines? Nothing against that, but it is a fact, right?
no, yeah, there's one of my great grandparents is Chinese.
Okay.
So there's that mix. But I also got the opportunity to study as a scholar in Beijing
Ah,
when I was in university. So when I was there, I put all my eggs in the Chinese language, trying to learn Mandarin. It's a tough language to learn, but it's
yeah.
also very interesting. And I made some good friends. No? So again, it's nice to understand. Let's say, like last week, I was on a call with one of my friends who lives in China. And she grew up there. She's from there talaga. It's fluent English and Mandarin, and it's interesting. Like the local context, it's
So you
definitely
speak Mandarin,
a little.
but you understand, like they can't, what they say, hindi ka pwede ibenta.
Baka pwede. Not as good. I've been practicing more Bisaya lately, so I tend to
Oh,
forget
wow.
my.
Wow. I mean, just to learn the different dialects in the Philippines is amazing. And then you learn
Yeah,
the language.
I
Yeah.
know. But I really wish I was taught Kapampangan when I was growing up. That's
Talo kita dyan.
oh man, sayang.
Pero writing, no. Writing Kapampangan is way like different.
Yeah,
Art.
the writing is so crazy. So
Yeah.
for those watching, check out. It's called Kulitan. Kulitan. Like it's a real interesting script. It's the Kapampangan version of Baybayin. There we go.
Ah,
Uh,
but now I have something to research and check. I actually have a better, appreciation of, my Kapampangan heritage as I get older. But I'm glad that I grew up in Manila, in Parañaque. Um,
Mm.
Father insisted that we spoke Kapampangan,
Oh,
but
that's so good. Buti na lang.
yeah, so buti na lang. So God bless his soul. He passed it, very, too soon. But yeah, that's something I'm very grateful for, that he imparted that to us. All right. Well, any message to to anyone, any of our friends here in Gawad Kalinga that you'd like to share with us before we wrap up here?
Okay. Well, I just wanted to add in response to what you were saying about your dad. Because I'm growing up, it was very easy for me to just have been, yung ano, parang if my dad had not stepped in, I would have grown up purely just speaking English at home. So he intervened when I was 9. It was like, anak na lang ng Tagalog.
Yeah.
So now I'm so grateful because I can converse with different communities very well. And sometimes I get the feeling like some of my friends who have gone to who grew up in predominantly English speaking families are a little jealous. Right? Kasi
Yeah.
grabe, sayang. So connection to that. Parents there or whoever is Filipinos in the States, please teach your kids Tagalog or Ilocano or Bisaya. Oh, man, please make sure they know it. It is such an amazing language and it is a key to culture. It's a key to business. I'm telling you, right? If you can say that, I mean, I studied Mandarin because of the business aspect. It's done wonders for me because I can charm Chinese business partners easily. So, who's to say learning the language is a waste of time? There's a lot of benefits. So I hope that Filipinos in the US do that. And please connect with me if you want to learn, or like there are many resources I'm happy to share with you guys who you can learn from. I guess, and then I'm just hoping that as we continue to, as we move forward, um, there's a lot of, I guess, negative going around online. So that's why I'm very appreciative to you, Donna, and the whole team for what you guys do. Parang wag tayo, let's not get swept away by what the media says, because we all know that the media is just one side of a very big story. And so I think that we should continue to, just push forward in terms of like what are the small actions we can do every day, whether it's how we purchase or like how we consume products, right, or services. And then at the same time, like let's open up. I don't know. Let's open up the career paths of the youth to possibly more development work, more entrepreneurship work. Uh, Interestingly enough, parang, if you look at the World Economic Forum survey of the global shapers, that's the youth segment. The number one challenge is climate change, and everything connected to it. Perhaps COVID popped up in the survey this year, but uh, like really, sustainability is the way to go, and I hope that we can kind of open the door for that for everybody. So yeah, please follow us online at courses.net, madtravel.org.
All right. And we will have that on the chat box, on the comment below. Chrissy will capture that for us. Thank you, Ra, for sharing, your story and in tonight's Kwentong GK. And yeah, and that's a really great idea. I mean, there's where in the past, people or our parents would discourage us from getting into entrepreneurship, right? And that growing up, nobody really cared about sustainability and all of that. But the world is changing, and we do have to change with it. And there are certain ways that we need to change and adapt to the changes that's happening in the world, right? So kudos to you and Mad Travel and everything that you do, to at least get us started and get us guide us and direct us toward the right path toward that and supporting sustainability and development.
Yeah, Donna, I have a short film. It's a Aipa Elder cooking recipe that they do. Baka we can share it with people in your
Oh
community.
yeah.
I film
Okay.
it.
Do you
I'll,
have
I'll,
it on the website, or do you wanna?
I have it. I have the YouTube link. I can share it with you now. But
Yeah. Yeah, you should be able to share if you want to share it now.
I mean, just so that people can watch it in their time, just so that they can get a taste
Oh,
of
okay. Okay, so
Sure,
if you
sure.
can just just type in you tell us the I guess type in the link to the YouTube and
Mhm.
share it here in the chat, and we can post
Yeah,
it
yeah.
on GKUSA. Thank you so much, Raf, again, and thank you, Chrissy and Lovely, for helping us tonight, for assisting us, and thank you, everyone, for joining us for another episode of Quantum GK. Make it a habit every Thursday night at 5 p.m. Pacific here on GKUSA. Thank you. Good night, everyone.